Hello and welcome to The Blueprint, a Chelsea FC Tactics podcast. Soon and I are analysts on X, where we share tactical breakdowns of Chelsea matches and discuss other interesting talking points. In this podcast, we'll be doing the same, diving even deeper into the details. In this episode, we're going to talk about Chelsea's 2-1 win over Copenhagen in the Europa Conference League Round of 16 first leg, and also Chelsea's 1-0 win over Leicester City in the Premier League just on Saturday or Sunday, actually. But yeah, before we start, as usual, soon, how are you doing?
I'm really good, my man. I'm doing well, by God's grace. How about you?
Yeah, doing all right. And with two Chelsea wins pretty much back to back, you can make that three with the win over Southampton. Things are looking more positive,
Hopefully,
although, yeah,
hopefully four wins when we
yeah, honestly,
face
long,
Copenhagen next.
yeah, let that continue because it's something we talked about in the previous episode as well at the end, where you just need your team to string results together and wins together to build some momentum, regardless of who the opposition is, and that's what we're seeing right now.
And yeah, we talked about it, yeah, because it was if we get so like we said momentum, we could at least get top four, maybe face a lot of our harder fixtures with much more confidence. And yeah, is we're at that period now where we win against Copenhagen and we can start looking at Arsenal and face it head on.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just important to get your morale back as well. Sometimes we're a tactics podcast, so our focus is on the tactics, but it's important to address those psychological factors where it's it's that can make the difference. Where there's a bit more positive mood in the camp. Everyone's a little more confident, and that could translate into maybe a more confident pass on the pitch, better decision making, cooler heads on the field as well. So yeah, it's good to see that. And the first game out of the two we're going to talk about today didn't really get off to a great start. Um, it was, I would say, I think probably the most boring 45 minutes of football from Chelsea I've seen this season. Against Copenhagen. Yeah,
Very
well, and
true, very true.
I could see it on Twitter as well, where Chelsea fans. That was a difficult watch. That was a really difficult watch, and yeah, let's start with the tactics. So, Sun, could you just explain how Copenhagen set out of possession wise, and how Chelsea set up in possession wise, and why we saw that very conservative first half from Chelsea, especially even though they dominated possession.
It's quite interesting because it seems like two games in a row, which happens to be very strategic two games where two coaches surprise Maresca in quotes before the game because we all know Maresca loves to do his homework on teams, and funny enough, I think it has happened maybe a few times, like maybe once or twice this season, but for two games straight, it feels like Maresca has come out to say these teams have surprised me. They have changed the way they play because they want to, and because they are facing us basically. And as we have talked about how we are a bit susceptible to back fives, and maybe we'll not be at our best when we're facing back fives because we have to change the way we play. Um, Teams are picking up on this now because Copenhagen did exactly that against us, and we set out to play a back four, but Copenhagen set out to play a back five. And you could see from our initial, I mean, when the first half basically, the way we set out to play with our 3-2, um, three at the back, where Chaluba, Mariska played three centre backs. Um, and he basically played maybe three right backs on the pitch, if you count Chaluba as well. So Chaluba inverted from right back as a centre back, right centre back. Tosin was the centre back. Then Badishiu, back from injury, was the left centre back. Then James played as a midfielder, more or less, as Maresca pointed out after the game, where he sees him, and Caicedo joined him in the pivot, so it was 3-2 there. Then you had an interesting front line of George on the right and Gusto on the left. I didn't see that coming. Um, Palmer and KDH and Mehuka for his Chelsea debut, which was quite interesting as well. So, and we played against a Copenhagen back five. I think they played with more or less two right backs. I think that right centre back used to started at right back. While I can't pronounce his name really well, but I know his okay. Is it Gocho Ledvili played as a right back, as a wing back, right wing back. So
Props to
it
you
looked like a
for
four.
trying to pronounce his name because I'm not even going to bother trying.
Yeah, so it was very funny. I just googled and pasted his name there basically in my thread. So, but it was a 5-4-1. So um yeah, so Chelsea were quite conservative, and well, we have talked about how the shape made it look like that because we normally play 3-1-6 diamond against these teams where we can overload their midfield. But I think Maresca had enough time to think about it, and there goes a good point, and to change it in the first half, and there goes a good point where someone like Johan, who's I respect really well, my partner too, and our partner too at writing Chelsea threads, that he mentioned the fact that maybe because of Reese isn't maybe fit enough to make runs into the half space on the right, because if you're on the right of the diamond, you make runs into the half spaces like Enzo does a lot of the time when he plays there. Then it is not a lone DM to leave him at the base of the diamond, and he cannot do the same on the left, because we have KDH there. So is that why we kept the 3-2? And as a result, we weren't where that was basically our worst half this season. And when we talk about creating chances, that's why it goes to you, my brother, Fahad.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned there at the end is an important point because that's something I wanted to touch on as well. Uh, because while I was watching the game, I thought firstly Copenhagen did well out of possession. I thought it sometimes looked like a 5-2-3 structure, so it in a way matched Chelsea, where they didn't drop too deep. They didn't drop their defensive line too deep. They were aggressive on Chelsea's players in the half spaces, both Palmer and Dewsbury Hall. And even from the front, they were passive for most of the time, but they did look to transition that press into a sort of a man-to-man press, and they did that well. I thought although Chelsea were really static in possession, I thought Copenhagen were good out of possession too. But anyway, with what you mentioned, I think that's a really interesting point because while I was watching the game, I was thinking the same. I was thinking, why isn't Maresca changing his structure to a 3-1-6? Because that's not a drastic change to make in a shape because we've seen that before, as you mentioned. And so when Johan shared those points, I think he pretty much hit it on the bullseye. Where I think James's physical limitations in terms of injury risk is a contributor or a factor to why Maresca didn't change it. I think you've explained it really well, so I've got nothing more to add there. But I think that's a really important point. But apart from that, more broadly this season, this is something John McKenzie has talked about as well, where we've seen more broadly in the season. Maresca has implemented a basic shape or a basic structure, which has been the 3-5. Yes, it can alter into a 3-1-6, but just think about the foundational principles coming from a 3-5. And what we've seen as the seasons progress is that we've established more control. This, I think, is a result of both Maresca eventually wanting more control as well as teams ceding that possession control. I think we saw that shift or the change in how opponents approach us from the Liverpool game. That's a game I reference a lot, and the reason is because I was and still am surprised in a way. Well, it makes sense partially, and I was still surprised still, where Slot decided to cede possession control to Chelsea so that they could test Chelsea against a really robust mid block. And what teams are doing now, and has been, they've been doing that for the past few months, where Chelsea have struggled, is they're willing to go into a low block and ask Chelsea to come on, try and break us when we're defending in a low block. And Chelsea just don't have that intricate bit of play yet, and it's something we will hope to see under Maresca as next season comes on. I think we're very late into the season now to see drastic changes, but that's something I'm hoping to see next season. And something I'd like your opinion on as well is, so I've been watching a lot of other teams in Europe over the past couple of weeks, um, whether that's in Italy or Spain with Real Madrid, one of, if
You have
not the
been a
best
busy
teams.
boy.
Yeah, yeah. Although I've been busy with other work recently, in the weeks prior, I got to watch a few other teams, and something I've really liked and something I've suggested for Chelsea in the upcoming summer transfer window as a way to complete their squad building is to prioritize a more fluid midfield, because it enables central access and enables our midfielders to find that bit of pocket of space against low blocks and just compact defensive units. And that fluidity, I think, can pull apart defenses. And something we saw in the Copenhagen game, the first game, was the complete opposite of that, where everyone just stood in their positions, no threat in behind, especially without Neto as a striker. So I'd like your thoughts on that, like a more broader discussion of how you'd maybe like to see, or how you maybe envision Chelsea evolving from where we are right now, from our fundamental 3-5 structure, just to put that simply, or frame that simply.
That's that's really a very interesting topic because a lot of the time our build up can be static um because we want I'm trying to imagine Lavia and Caicedo trying to make rotational movements maybe in the build up, maybe someone. Well, we saw something with Enzo. The Southampton game really brought up some ideas. I think Maresca could try a bit more. Like we've talked about the rotations that Neto brings. I think we saw some of them against Leicester. It wasn't as pronounced though, but also we saw something about Enzo being a bit more free to drop into the midfield, making it a man midfield instead of two. And we've also seen the 3-3-4 this season. Quite, but I think the match or the game where we saw it really profoundly was the Panathinaikos game
Mm-hmm.
where we saw 3-3-4 and four attackers too. And I think there are a lot of things that Maresca hasn't that has he has touched on this season, but he hasn't dwelt on, if you know what I mean. Because he also says it that you can't teach everything at once. So it's quite exciting to think about how some of these things could happen. And I think the 3-3-4 could be something we see more of a lot more of next season too as well. Because at that point you are making your and at that point, like what you said, we could see more rotations in midfield because I think Enzo and Caicedo are very comfortable either playing high or low in the midfield, anywhere in the midfield. Then Lavia is more of a sitter, but he's not alien to it as well. Um, Probably if we get one more, and Andre, yeah, sorry, why would I forget Andre? And Andre is basically comfortable anywhere in midfield as well. So it's been quite interesting to see how Maresca structures his midfield. I think he won't want to lose balance, protecting his team from the counter attack. So I can understand it. So it needs to really be perfected in such a way that it's quite uh, balance wise for the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, and I think um, this is something we could really explore in the summer break as well. We've got
I
many
think
podcasts
Liverpool
there.
does something. I'm so sorry, but I
Yeah.
think Liverpool does something almost a bit similar with Gravenberch. Even though Gravenberch stays low, at times Gravenberch could ball carry and um, someone will fill in, maybe whether it's McAllister or Jones at times. Uh, yes, I think Liverpool does something similar. Yeah.
Yeah, they do because Gravenberch isn't really a traditional number six like how we might think of a Rodri or if you go to Spain, a Zubimendi. He's got that ball carrying ability, so they do that as well. So that's a good pick out. But anyway, I think we should explore this in detail over the summer because I think we've got many ideas, many podcast ideas, and this is one that excites me the most, to be honest. Because we've all just
Mhm.
got so many different perspectives and interesting ideas, and of course the club sporting directors will have a certain vision as well. But just shifting our focus back into the Copenhagen game, something I wanted to touch on was how Maresca adapted with his high press approach throughout the game. So again, we've discussed about how there's this false notion that Maresca does not adapt his team or keeps a very fixed and structured system week in, week out, where it's true to a certain extent, where again, as I mentioned, there's a foundational base from which Chelsea play every game, but that does not mean that we're the exact same team with the exact same tactics, given we have a fully fit squad. And the game against Copenhagen showed his tactical adaptability when things aren't working. And I thought Chelsea's high press performance in the first half was extremely poor, where where Copenhagen didn't really punish us, but there were so many loopholes to play through Chelsea in that Chelsea tried to press with a -1 in the front line where Cole Palmer and Moika altered responsibilities and they try to press a centre back while covering a DM, depending on who
Yeah.
jumps on the centre back. And it worked kind of at times, but the energy levels were so low in the first half, and this is something I'd like your input on as well, sir, is that but before we get into that, is our high press performance was poor, and we saw Maresca make that change where he then asked George, who was playing at right wing, to curve his run and press the centre back whilst Palmer and Mueca stay on the DMs. So that worked more effectively, and this allowed Chelsea to have a +1 at the back to deal with those long balls that Copenhagen would throw. And eventually, the game, especially in the second half, when those energy levels picked up, Maresca switched to a man-oriented press. So we see three different approaches or different styles to a high press throughout the game. And I would say the high press worked more often than not. Again, although Chelsea can get caught out, Chelsea did all right. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. But something you've mentioned, Sun, is how Chelsea's energy levels changed in the first half and second half, and I think it was very noticeable on screen as well. So, what did you think about that and how Chelsea shifted from the first half to the second half?
You could feel sorry for Mehuka at times because it's his debut and maybe the system and everything wasn't working to make him get get a lot of touches on the ball or chances. And I actually do think Mehuka has good movement. It wasn't really tested there. At times I think there was a ball I think Palmer could have played to him, but it was just indicative of the energy levels of the team. Basically, I don't know whether it was because of the shape and and like you said, the pressing structure was had to be changed as well. So it's also funny how recently we have also picked up in our energy levels after the second half. Maybe after I think we had that earlier in the season. I've noticed a lot of things concerning Chelsea this season about the flip of the Chelsea of the first half of the season and the second half of the season in different ways because first half of for example, first half of the season we were one of the best away teams. Or now we and we're very average at home, like seventh and sixth place when you look at the home and away table. But when you look at the home table, we're like getting to mid table. But now it's been flipped and we are one of the best teams at home and all our average mid-table away from home. So that's one of them. And also in the first half of the season, we were one of the best teams probably starting. We're one of the best teams coming out of the second half to score or to win games, and we're winning a lot of games because of we scored early in the second half, came out of the blocks, especially when we talked about how Poch was not really great at motivating the players after halftime. But we became worse after scoring. We now became worse after scoring first, after coming out at halftime. I think that is picking up again in the last two games where we have been much better coming out at halftime. And we thank God for James. The quality and yeah, the quality of the team is kind of coming up quite showing a bit more. We are being a bit more clinical. If yeah, we can score more goals. Well, the Kukureya and James strikes, I don't think you see them in the first half of the season. So things like that really help. So it's very interesting the energy levels, considering we are not playing much recently as well.
Yeah, good points. And the result of those change in energy levels was seen in all goals in the second half. It wasn't just Chelsea's energy level shift, it was also Copenhagen's, where they were pressing more aggressively from the front. Well, James's strike in the first half, I mean, was exactly what we needed. And if you look at what stems from that, it's a bit of quick interchange play between Cucurella and Kunku, who again gets an assist, by the way. He was looking for George, but we're gonna take it here anyway. James with a lovely strike where the ball sneaks in to the near post, and Enzo Fernandez as well, who had a really nice goal. I want you to just explain what you thought about Enzo Fernandez, by the way, because in the second goal, I mean, we see a turnover on the left side with George winning possession and eventually squaring it off to Enzo Fernandez. But apart from the goal, I thought Enzo Fernandez had a really good impact in the game in all phases or all yeah, just all phases of our in possession play. And so, what did you think about Fernandez's impact?
Fernandez is basically, when you talk about our best player in the last few weeks, you probably mention, yeah, I think you can even give Enzo the title of our best player this year because that's how good he has been, adding goals, more assists, um, creating chances, and the energy levels he brings to this team is showing like it's actually showing captain levels. And if we have more captains on the pitch, it's really like I've talked about building captains instead of because I'm not sure we can easily buy a captain where a captain has to be um settled into this team, knows the player, knows his teammates. So a captain needs to settle. So it might not be as easy buying a captain, especially the routes we went of buying youngsters. So the fact that someone like Enzo, who has established himself with this team, is now looking as much as a captain material, as much as now James also growing up. So it's good to see that that's from the non-football side. But on the football side, Enzo's also establishing himself as a creative force in the Premier League. He's top 10. I checked the stats today. He still created the most. Yes, I think he's the only player in the Premier League in 2025 to create more than five chances in three games. And is very impressive and to show and his ball striking is showing more now than his first 20 months basically at Chelsea and is really a testament to his hard work and testament to Maresca as well because Maresca put him in that role and he Enzo really struggled initially in the role of going up and down knowing where to be that's very important knowing where to be at each time and you could still say Enzo could improve defensively because, yeah, I'll still get to that as well because we know Enzo and Caicedo love to press more than covering space, and that could leave us light in midfield, which I saw at times against Leicester as well. So, but he's definitely improving as well.
Yeah, it's good to see those improvements, and I thought he really had an important impact in the Copenhagen match. But nevertheless, when Chelsea went 2-0 up, I did expect them to see the game out, but that did not really happen. Chelsea didn't concede many chances. To be fair to them, they didn't create much either. So I suppose it balances out in a way. And Copenhagen only created 0.45 xG according to SofaScore, while Chelsea created
Oh.
0.37, so marginally lower than Copenhagen actually. But the goal they scored was from a free kick. And there was some suspect defending from Dewsbury Hall. Many pointed their finger to Colwell, but I was a bit surprised by that since KDH was the farthest player away, and I thought Colwell was performing his duties. Yes, he didn't get to the ball, but don't think there's much blame to be pointed there. What did you think of that free kick?
I think it's classic Chelsea hate train because Cole has been in the spotlight for some weeks. I think he has improved it a bit. He has had some better performances, but he has been in the spotlight for weeks, and a lot of people have been talking about him. So I wasn't surprised he will get highlighted there for something that wasn't I looked at it even initially from and the initial video, the initial look, there was no way that you could blame Cole for that because KDH and I think Nkunku who were at the back post and meant to at least defend the back post. They didn't even run. They didn't even get to run at and track their man, mark their the player they were assigned to mark. So at that point, Cole was meant to. I think Cole was grouped with Tosin and by the shield in the middle to attack the balls that come in into their zone. I think that's like a mix of zonal and man marking system from that set piece. And at that point, um, KDH is meant to follow his man. So Kovu could do what he could do, try to head the ball from where he was, but there was nothing else he could do to except his superhuman scans scans 100 times per second to be able to see the man behind him and backtracks like a goalkeeper, a pro goalkeeper, to be able to get that ball. And so it's quite funny the way a lot of our fans try to paint some things um, to basically hit on a player that they probably do not like or is getting a bit of hate stick recently. So that's I don't know, it's a theme amongst us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the notion of sure, Colwell's not been perfect this season. There's no denying that, but I feel like it's a lesson football fans have to learn eventually, hopefully, is that you just can't write off um, a 22-year-old centre back as well, a position which demands experience. Yes, there are a few standouts. I'm sure this is a counter argument where you've got someone like Paul Kubasi who's what, 17, 18 years old, performing to the highest level, but every player has different
Who still got
development trajectories.
who still got a red card too, by the way, in midweek.
Yeah, it happens, right? Like these guys are young, and it's a demanding league, the highest league, and they're meant to make mistakes. And we're not even talking about a mistake here in the Copenhagen game, but there's that there's that criticism directed to him for no reason. But I think at least judging from our online reactions and takes and opinions, I just feel like this season, or maybe even over the past few seasons, but I felt that especially this season where we're just not backing our players and manager enough. Where
Enough, yeah.
it's our team and it's our players, but there seems to be just a lack of confidence or lack of faith in our side. But yeah, and let's just quickly talk about the Leicester game. I'd like you to take over here, really, because I wasn't able to keep a close eye on the game. There was I'm not sure if you know, but there was a cricket final between India and New Zealand happening. So one eye was on that. I was breaking my fast in between as well, so didn't really get to watch the Chelsea Leicester game. Did see the few key moments, and I read your thread, which you posted earlier today. So just go on and take over this section.
Yeah. I hope I hope they won. First of
They
all,
did.
I was the final.
Yeah, they did.
Congrats,
Yeah.
congrats.
Yes,
I'm not like the biggest cricket fan, sure, but yeah, congratulations. Anyways, that must be like a big national victory for you guys. Um, so, and I think for the Leicester game, it was also another case, like I said earlier, of Leicester trying to change how they play to be able to stop us from playing. And a Leicester team, and I laughed about this while I was making the trade because a Leicester team that hasn't played a back five for weeks, didn't play a back five against Man City, didn't play a back five against Arsenal and Spurs, but plays a back five against the mighty Chelsea. So um, it's very funny how teams are starting to just change the way they play because of us. And I remember something like that happened when Conte changed to a back five, where um after the run, the 13 game winning run, teams or even during the run, teams started to play back fives just to stop us. So yeah, that's the classic Premier League, people. Um so that's what Leicester did. I think they played with Christensen and um, Luke Thomas on the left, Justin and Faz as the right centre back, Justin as the right wing back. So, and an interesting. So it was a five 3 5-3-2 when they were defending, um, with an interesting choice of Daka and Vardy on the pitch at the same time. I don't know how much that happens, but when I watched Leicester last season under Maresca, it probably never happened. So I'm not sure about this season, but yeah. So Chelsea had to change their style or the plan for the game before or after the warm-ups, which is very interesting as Maresca looked to keep a keen eye on Leicester before the game. And you could see Sancho reference it too as well. The way we changed to a diamond, that they'll be working on a 3-2-5 all week, only to change to a diamond today or yesterday. So it was good to see how we reacted quickly to that. So Leicester actually weren't trying to be so passive um with their low block or mid block. They tried to actually press Chelsea. They tried to push up to Chelsea, tried to use their front three to press our back three, basically, with Caicedo being the only man in midfield. So initially in the game, early in the game, you could see Leicester trying to do that. But at that time, Cowell, we outnumbered, of course, the diamond in the middle, the four-man diamond could outnumber Leicester's two-man midfield of Ndidi and Somare. So early in the game, Cole could just thread a line breaking pass to Palmer and boom, we're already up to pitch. So it's quite funny. We see that, and yet the fans um start shouting that we are not playing forward. So yeah, but I'll get to that part too as well. So that happened like twice in the first 10 minutes or so. So I think Leicester were a bit more aware of that, started making their centre backs to press the outside players of the diamond. Um, at times, their wider centre backs, or even Connor Cody, who was central, um, pushed up to Neto anytime Neto tried to drop deep to collect the ball because Neto would try to rotate, make moves down each wing. So I think Cody tried to follow him anytime he did that. And it's very interesting as Neto also tried to drop deep. Either Palmer or Nkunku tried to make that running behind as a signal. They saw it as a signal to rotate to Neto, make that running behind as it drops deep. And it happened later in the half where we started playing those balls in behind um Leicester because I remember as I said, Leicester wasn't deep. They weren't trying to park the bus basically. They just wanted to have a compact shape and make it hard for Chelsea to play through. So there was a little bit of space in behind at the edge of the box. And I think we saw Caicedo give some pitches of the ball um to Kukureya, who was focusing a lot on runs and also cutbacks, which he gave Palmer a few of, and Palmer couldn't really catch a lot of them. But also, um, Sancho too was a threat because we already had one v1 winger, yes, and Sancho was on the right. Sancho really was a threat basically from the right, taking on his man 1v1, and I think he's much better at the right and doing that. And on the right, he tends to focus on cutbacks and crosses more than when he's on the left. And we saw him beat his man a few times, even won a penalty from it. And cut inside and all of that. So yeah, it was also another way we created chances against that block. And you could say we tried crosses too, but I think Leicester, their back posts, they defended it really well. I think a lot of teams we have taken advantage of um, our overload at the back post, but I think Leicester really dealt with that really well to prevent us from creating those chances. But I think, especially in the first half, I think we dominated a lot of the game. We took the game to them. We tried to create chances. We were lucky not to get at least one goal from that. The penalty save too on Palmer was really unfortunate that he lost his record, but it happens. And I don't know about you. I don't know whether you might not have seen the penalty live, but how shocked were you to see Palmer not score his penalty?
I did. I think that's his first penalty missed after 12 gone straight in consecutively, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, yeah, very,
Yeah,
very true.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know how you greeted the news when you saw Palmer miss the penalty.
yeah. I was really surprised. I think like everyone else.
Yeah, and yet I think Palmer's overall game was not, as usual, was not really affected though. But yesterday, you could see this small dent in confidence, especially when trying to strike the ball from those cutbacks, or um,
Mhm,
where he will probably control the ball better, and he didn't really do that so as well. So yeah, it was a good. I think we dominate. I think our intensity of the ball was very good, very good. I think
mhm,
the counter press sustaining attacks was very good. The positioning of the outside centre backs, Colwill and Fofana, very close to the play so that if we lose the ball, they are there first to the scene. So we didn't really have a lot of counters to deal with. We didn't even, a lot of the time when we talk about counter presses, they involve maybe winning the ball when the ball is cleared from the opposition team. But yeah, that yesterday it was less of winning the ball and more of the players that are meant to be there are just there to collect the ball. So that's what it was. And the second half, it was only a matter of time for me that I knew that we would score. Only a matter of time. In the second half, we came out. Our press was also quite impressive. A lot of the time, the way we pressed was also um I think we don't really have a pressing shape here. It's based on the opposition team. So the way we pressed was Sancho, I think Leicester tried their keeper, Matt Emerson. Maybe he still has some of the pack that Enzo put in his mind last season to form a back four with his defenders, which means he moves away from the goal a lot of the time to play the ball. And that way, Neto tried to arc his run to block him from playing back to where he's coming from. Yeah, and it was very much quite interesting to see that the way we pressed there because Neto's arcing of the run meant that he won't Matt Hermansen won't be able to play the ball back to where he came from, and it forced him a lot to go long. And you could see Nkunku was mainly on Faz. Palmer and Enzo were focused on the pivot of Leicester, of Somari, and um, Ndidi. So a lot of the time he went long, and our centre backs really dealt with any aerial balls. Cowell won 8/11 aerial duels. I don't need to count Tosin zone because Tosin basically dominates every area duel he faces, and Fofana too as well. So it was we won the ball back every time. I think we considered the lowest XG of the season as 0.10 xg. I don't even know how that's possible to be able to achieve that low of an xg to so it was very
Yeah,
impressive. And um to see Kukurea as well. And even for the Kukurea goal, you could see the way we pressed. In the second half, it was much more um aggressive. We pressed a bit more aggressively. We pushed up to them, the same style, the same pressing structure, but it was more intensive. We could see a lot of that in the second half because that was like the theme of the second half. Chelsea really stepped it up a notch and created chances from that. And we moved the ball for Kukurea's goal. We won the ball, and we won a long ball as a result of the press, moved it quickly through the thirds. The ball got to Enzo. Enzo found Kukurea in space, who arrived from his left wing back because Kukurea played wide of Nkunku this time instead of Nkunku playing wide and Kukurea staying in the half space as the left side of the diamond. And that gave Kukurea enough space to let it rip Alonso versus Spurs style under Lampard. So it's good to see Kukurea. I don't know about you. How have you seen Kukurea's evolution basically from just a defensive left back to now a more complete left back under Maresca?
yeah. I think it's great to see his development since joining because he had his rough period when he came and everyone's aware of that, and then the the comeback arc in a way ever since. Poch invited him into midfield, and he had an amazing Euros, lifted the trophy, and now this season been he's proved to be a complete package, like you said. And so yeah, it's good to see him chip in with the goals as well. And it was a bit of a slap on my wrist because in my squad building analysis or forecast of how I would go about it, I actually recommended to get a new overlapping left back, and this goal was a bit of a, or maybe we just put Cucurella there, and he'll deliver with the goals and assists because I think he got the goal for, I mean, he got the assist for James against Copenhagen as well. So yeah, pretty good to see him, and I think you've nicely explained the Chelsea Leicester game, unless you've got anything else to add on with the overall performance.
Yeah, for maybe lastly, I'll add that, yeah, I think we'll talk about that, but because I think we still need another left back because of Kukureya's, we can't play every game. He shouldn't. I think he has been used a lot this season, and we need to protect him a bit too as well, and, add more quality too because is very much improved in attack, but you can also get more quality in attack basically from crosses as well. I like Kekes. I don't know about you. Do you like him?
Yeah, I like him a lot. He also got a brilliant assist against Tottenham this weekend. I'm not sure if you saw it, but he has
I
this
saw it,
finishing run from deep and whips in an amazing cross pinpoint accuracy for Cliver, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I
especially
really
when we
like him.
need ball carriers. Yeah,
He's also aggressive, fast, front-footed, got the engine to bomb up and down the field. I really like him. I was skeptical of him when Chelsea were linked to him. I think it was, I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before
yeah.
he
I think it
blew up
was
pretty
last
much.
summer.
Yeah, before he
Yeah,
blew up, and I wasn't really convinced. I thought he needed to polish his game a little more before making that step up.
true,
And I think he's
true.
has this season. That's why you're seeing links to, especially Liverpool, who are in dire need of a left back to replace Robertson. So you're getting linked to the best team in the Premier League, and that says something about the quality of the player as well.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true on that. So, the last thing I'll say about the game was this is now the non-tactics point because it's something that we probably haven't seen enough of in the way we protect our leads. And I saw it in spades because this Chelsea team ran their socks off in that second half,
Mhm.
especially after, yeah, they ran their socks off because George even came on to the pitch. Um, Achimpong came on as well. And those boys, they gave everything in those few minutes. They ran after every loose ball. They pressed every man. Neto pressed. I put up a video earlier in the day to showing how a piece of play where Neto pressed applied 8 pressures. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't catch that. I'll have a look at the video you posted.
Yeah, 8 pressures in 20 seconds. That's crazy. Like he pressed 8 times in 20 seconds. Like he pressed some same players got the ball, but some the same lesser players got the ball at times, but he still pressed 8 times in 20 seconds. So after the game, he collapsed down to the floor. You could see that he gave everything on the pitch. So I think the mentality shift is very needed at this time, and I think I need to see that against Arsenal. And if we see that against Arsenal, we most likely could get positive results with the quality that will probably be returning against Arsenal. Yeah, so it was very good to see.
Yeah, and that'll be much needed moving into the run of fixtures Chelsea have up next. Apart from the Copenhagen fixture, Chelsea have got a tough run of fixtures. That's Arsenal, Tottenham, Brentford, Ipswich, and Fulham. So that's the next five Premier League fixtures we're looking at, and these results have come at a good time, and so have the performances in a way where we're showing signs of improvement, although far from perfect. Um, Results is what you need, as we said at the start of the podcast, just to get your just to get your feet up and the morale back in. And with James coming in, Fernandez showing that a bit more of that leadership qualities, I think we can see a strong end to the season. Let's see. I'm still a bit conservative considering the really poor run of fixtures or other results Chelsea have had. But yeah, let's hope for the best and let's hope for Chelsea to finish in the top four. Chelsea are back in the top four now as well, which when you consider just a few weeks ago we had a protest and now we're back in fourth, you know,
The protest worked, didn't it?
I suppose I suppose so. Yeah, that's yeah, as said before, that's another topic for another day. But yeah, it's been great. I think a bit of a longer podcast than usual, but I hope everyone's stuck on and enjoyed the entire pod. And thanks to you for pitching in with your Leicester analysis because I put us in a tricky situation because I couldn't see the game. But yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for really detailed analysis, and I really like your thread as well. I thought you covered everything, and I don't think I need to rewatch the game. So yeah, thank you for that.
thank you so much as well.
Yeah, been great chatting to you, and glad there are, as I said in the last episode as well, it's good to see a regular number of listeners tuning in every week, and we
Really,
hope to see this grow.
I
Yeah.
need to I need to check the stats because I've been oblivious to the stats. Basically, I need to really
Mm.
check the stats on it, and is I'm just really on the Twitter and seeing the followers grow. And thank you guys a lot because we didn't know we were even going to go basically this far already. And a lot of people are listening, saying they love to watch it. So someone tweets something like that. I mean, love to listen to it. And don't worry, stay tuned, guys. We're trying to add a lot of things. Hopefully, we're able to finalize things like that and bring even more quality for you guys.
Yeah, well said. Because right now we're sticking to a weekly format because of the schedules we're on, but other responsibilities and other things we're both busy with. So we do want to do this more often because chatting to Sun and Jeff and whoever will feature in the upcoming episodes, the upcoming months. It's always nice to chat to you guys, and I always learn from everyone who I speak to as well. Um, and we'd love to do this more regularly. Something like twice a week would be perfect, but just short on time, and so at least we're trying to get this consistency, a weekly consistency on this, and yeah, we'll still keep it up on a weekly basis, especially over the summer where we'll cover other topics apart from just tactics, and maybe even some other tactical topics like more holistic conversations, which we can't really cover due to the thick run of fixtures, Chelsea and every other team is on. So yeah, that's a quick summary of where we're at with this podcast too. But yeah, great to do this, great to chat to you soon, and thank you to everyone for listening.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks for having buddy. So we're going to see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week. Bye bye.